Hi, welcome to Essential Scripts. My name is Lana, and this is a calm, narrative channel where we explore influential books, literature, and ideas in a clear and thoughtful way, designed especially for people who enjoy learning while walking, working, or unwinding. We do more than simple summaries here, because each episode focuses on extracting the key ideas that truly matter and offering practical guidance on how those ideas can be applied in everyday life, so learning feels useful, grounded, and easy to carry forward. Let's begin. In the 2nd century, one of the most influential philosophy books in Western history was not written by an emperor, a general, or a wealthy aristocrat, but by a man who began his life as a slave. Epictetus owned nothing, held no political power, and left behind no written work of his own. And yet nearly 2,000 years later, his ideas shaped Roman leaders, inspired early Christian thinkers, and quietly influenced modern readers, ranging from military commanders to psychologists and entrepreneurs. What we know as Discourses exists only because one of Epictetus's students, Arian, believed these teachings were too important to be lost. He carefully recorded Epictetus's conversations, arguments, and challenges, preserving not polished philosophy, but living instruction. At its core, Discourses addresses a problem that feels intensely modern. How do you stay calm, dignified, and free in a world you cannot control? And how do you live well when circumstances, people, and outcomes refuse to cooperate? By the end of this summary, you will understand Epictetus's central idea for inner freedom, how to apply it in daily life, and why this ancient philosophy remains one of the most practical guides to resilience ever created. The foundational principle. At the heart of Discourses lies a single, uncompromising idea. Freedom comes from understanding what is within your control and what is not. Epictetus believed that nearly all human suffering comes from confusing these two categories. Your opinions, judgments, values, desires, and actions belong to you. They are yours to shape, refine, and discipline. Everything else, including your body, reputation, possessions, relationships, and outcomes, ultimately does not. These external things may influence your life, but they are not fully yours to command. Epictetus did not present this as abstract theory. He treated it as a daily operating system. If you attach your sense of peace to things outside your control, you make yourself vulnerable to fear, anger, and disappointment. If you anchor your peace to your own character and choices, you remain steady even when circumstances shift. This distinction between what is up to us and what is not is the backbone of Stoic ethics. But in Discourses, it becomes personal, demanding, and often uncomfortable. Epictetus was less interested in comforting his students and more interested in transforming them. His message was simple but difficult. If you want freedom, you must accept responsibility for your inner life. Key lessons and applications. Lesson 1. Desire is the root of disturbance. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the desires and judgments they bring to those events. When you insist that reality should behave according to your preferences, frustration becomes inevitable. Most people, he observed, desire things that depend on chance or other people, such as praise, success, security, or approval. When those desires are blocked, they feel wronged. And when those desires are threatened, they feel anxious. Epictetus challenged his students to radically retrain desire itself. Instead of wanting external outcomes, they should want to respond well, act virtuously, and maintain self-respect regardless of circumstances. This shift changes everything. To practice this in daily life, when something frustrates you, pause and ask what you are actually demanding from the situation. Are you demanding certainty, control, or recognition? Then ask whether that demand is reasonable or even possible. Redirect your desire toward what you can govern, such as your effort, your honesty, and your composure. And over time, this practice weakens the grip of disappointment and strengthens emotional stability. Lesson 2. You are always training, whether you know it or not. Epictetus compared life to an athletic training ground. Every challenge, insult, delay, and inconvenience is an opportunity to practice discipline. If you complain, react impulsively, or surrender your values under pressure, you are training yourself in weakness. He warned that philosophy is not something you perform in lectures or conversations, but something you reveal under stress. Anyone can speak calmly about virtue when things go well. The real test appears when pride is wounded, plans collapse, or authority is exercised unfairly. This is why Epictetus urged constant vigilance. The habits you practice in small moments shape how you respond in serious ones. To learn this discipline, treat everyday annoyances as deliberate practice. When someone interrupts you, see it as training in patience. When plans change unexpectedly, see it as training in adaptability. When criticized unfairly, see it as training in humility. Instead of asking why this is happening to you, ask what kind of person you are becoming through it. Lesson 3. Roles, duties, and self-respect. Epictetus believed that each person occupies multiple roles in life, such as child, parent, colleague, citizen, or friend. A good life is not about chasing personal advantage, but about fulfilling these roles with integrity. He argued that self-respect comes from acting in accordance with reason and duty, not from outcomes. A person who compromises their principles for comfort or approval may gain short-term benefits but loses something more valuable. Epictetus frequently asked his students a simple but piercing question. What kind of person do you want to be when no one is watching? To practice this, identify the roles you hold and ask what excellence looks like in each one. Focus less on how others respond and more on whether your actions align with your values. This approach builds a stable sense of identity that is not easily shaken by praise or criticism. Lesson 4. Freedom through acceptance. One of the most challenging teachings in Discourses is the idea that freedom requires accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Epictetus did not mean passive resignation, he meant clear-eyed acknowledgement. When you resist reality, you add unnecessary suffering to unavoidable events. When you accept it, you free mental energy for wise action. This acceptance applies not only to events, but also to human nature. People will act according to their understanding, limitations, and incentives. Expecting otherwise leads to constant frustration. Epictetus taught that the goal is not to control life, but to cooperate with it intelligently. To practice this, when faced with a difficult situation, separate acceptance from action. Accept what has already occurred without mental resistance. Then focus fully on what response is most aligned with your values. This distinction prevents emotional exhaustion and clarifies decision-making. Synthesis and critique. Discourses fits remarkably well with modern psychology, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, which emphasizes the role of beliefs and interpretations in emotional distress. The Stoic insight that thoughts shape feelings has been empirically validated centuries later. At the same time, Epictetus is often misunderstood as promoting emotional suppression or indifference. In reality, he acknowledged emotion but insisted it be guided by reason. His goal was not numbness, but clarity. Another common critique is that Stoicism ignores systemic injustice by focusing on internal freedom. However, Epictetus did not argue against improving external conditions. He argued against tying personal worth to outcomes beyond one's control. His philosophy complements action rather than replacing it. Across traditions, from Buddhism to Christian monasticism, similar themes emerge. Detachment from externals, discipline of desire, and ethical action form a shared human wisdom. Discourses stands out for its bluntness and practicality, offering not consolation, but instruction. My takeaway from Discourses. If there is one lesson worth carrying forward from Discourses, it is this. Your freedom does not depend on what happens to you, but on how you choose to respond. Epictetus invites you to reclaim ownership of your inner life, one judgment at a time. This is not a philosophy for escape, but for engagement. It asks you to show up fully, act honorably, and accept outcomes without surrendering self-respect. When practiced daily, it builds a quiet confidence that does not need constant validation. As you move through the rest of your day, notice where you are giving power away to things you cannot control. Then gently bring your attention back to what is yours, your choices, your values, and your actions. If you found this reflection useful, consider exploring the full Discourses and returning here for more calm, long-form explorations of timeless literature. And if this helped you see your challenges differently, share it with someone who might need that reminder today.